Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Volume Play Loud podcast. I am your host, Malcolm Ford, and we have a very special guest with us today. But before I get into the guest, just have to do one shout out to our primary sponsor, which is Pure 5 HR. If you do need any HR or staffing services, feel free to reach out to Pure 5 HR, Pure Talent, Pure Partners, Pure 5. Now, to our guest of the hour, I want to give a big warm welcome to Mr. Blake Leeson, a two-time national champion at Ohio State, as well as multiple-time Alpaca boat ride finalist, and a very well-seasoned pro overseas, and arguably the best middle in the VLA. Blake, thank you so much for joining and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. So I'm stoked to be here. So thanks for making time, and I'm excited to chat with you and connect on some things volleyball.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Blake, real quick, can you give everyone a quick introduction? I know I went into a few things, but can you, in your words, give a quick introduction of your playing experience?
Yeah, I can give a yeah for sure. I started super late. I'm from Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee, and I grew up playing football for like the majority of my life, from fourth grade till about 10th grade. And then I started playing volleyball my junior year of high school. It was my first year playing, and I played 1 year of club my senior year. And then I sent out emails. My stance on it was like, "Hey, send out as many emails as you can because you never know what opportunities you might get putting your name out there." So got a couple of responses, and got some walk on opportunities, 2 or 3 walk-on opportunities from those emails. I probably sent out, over 100 emails. Most of the people didn't open them, didn't reply, and that's okay because all you need is one. Ended up going to Ohio State, walking on there, and was fortunate enough to be able to earn scholarship for my remaining years after the first year, because financially I just couldn't stay there if I didn't get scholarships. Luckily, I was able to redshirt, get a little stronger, get a little bit more uh, acquainted to speed and of the game. Just lack of playing when you start at 17. Everybody else in the gym was just way more talented than I was. It wasn't even close. Yeah, so sometimes you got to be humbled for sure. I was definitely the worst person in the gym, but that's okay. It's part of the process sometimes, and I enjoyed the challenge. So yeah, started at Ohio State, walked on there, then earned scholarship. Was at Ohio State for 5 years. We were fortunate enough. I was fortunate enough to be on a great group of guys, like just incredible group, super bought in, super focused. Not a lot of outside distractions on that group for that 3 to 5 year run. We were able to win 3 conference championships and 2 national championships when we were there. And just had like a really core group of guys that really cared about winning and really bought into what our coaches were saying and working or training us through. So along with the support staff, everything was awesome. So I guess that hopefully answers the question. But yeah, from there I just went and played overseas for a couple of years. I did a couple of summers with the college national teams and stuff like that. I honestly really enjoy my summers, not playing volleyball at that level sometimes, honestly, just to take a little break. But that was fun doing that for a couple of years. I bounced around to a couple different countries and really enjoyed Germany. Played in Germany for 3 years, so the most of any country. And had played with some other NCAA players that everyone knows, like the Worsleys and countless other names. But yeah, I've just been enjoying traveling. I love what volleyball has brought for me, and the opportunities and the people, especially just because I think it's such a close knit community of people who generally are really nice people, which is rare in sports. But yeah, that's kind of how I've I guess a little bit of background of my playing history up until now. And we've had some success overseas to the last couple of years. I was really fortunate to be on a really great team in Germany that played Champions League. We got second, or we were finalists, or got second in the CV Cup 2 years ago, and we placed top 5 in Champions League this year, going up against some of like the best talent in the world. So it was a lot of fun. It was exhilarating, and it's been an awesome experience. So I'm just happy to be here and happy to still be kicking at this age in my career.
Hey, you still got a few years left in the tank, so I'm sure there's a lot more to come. Real quick, I do want to circle back to your days at Ohio State. I'm a big college football fan, and I was from Iowa, born and raised in Iowa. So, of course, I'd be a big Iowa fan, but since Iowa doesn't really win anything in football, I do have kind of like my TV wife, which actually happens to be Ohio State. So, how was it, kind of going to that university, which was known for, having very diehard, loyal football fans and playing volleyball there? Like, how did you interact with like the football team quite a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was definitely unique, like, to be completely honest with you, like, I, growing up, did not come from a household that watched college sports really at all, like, my parents did not watch college athletics. I didn't really even know Ohio State was a school until, like, maybe my junior or senior year in high school, which I hate to say, but it's the truth. I just never watched college football even though I played, so going there was an eye-opening experience. When I first stepped on campus, like, the culture, obviously, and, like, the tradition is super, just unique, and obviously, I'm biased because I went there, but, like, stepping on campus, I fell in love with the place. I love Columbus. I love the university. Being a volleyball team there, obviously, we weren't very high on the totem pole, let's put it that way, but definitely winning definitely helped. So, yeah, we hung out with some of the football guys, and, freshman year, we'd be in similar dorms or similar areas. We became friends with a bunch of the guys, and we were at events with Ezekiel Elliott and a bunch of those guys that were top tier names in the football program at the time when they won the Natty in 2014, which was my freshman year. I believe they won one of them. No, it was good. Obviously, Wisconsin, Ohio is not a men's volleyball state by any means. It's definitely like wrestling, football, centric, but the fans showed out, and the other programs definitely supported us too with the success we had. Like, we had, I think, almost 10,000 people show up for that national championship game that was
Wow.
in 17, and that was a really cool experience because, like, being from a state that's primarily, volleyball is looked at as a women's sport, typically in Ohio, but even more so in the South. It was cool to get that kind of support from just fellow Buckeye fans who probably honestly didn't even know we had a men's team. If I'm going to be honest, for half of for half the people that were online, they probably heard it, and was like, "What the heck?" Yeah, it was a cool experience, and we definitely were very fortunate to get that support from the other teams. But no, we were friends with some of the guys in the football team and hung out outside of athletic activities as well. So there wasn't ever like a huge divide. A bunch of sports teams were crossed friends and whatnot. So
It's good. Good to hear. Let me circle back to your experience from going from college to jumping in overseas and going pro. Was that a huge culture shock? Was it easy to adjust? How was that adjustment period?
yeah, we talk about this a lot with other guys who played, or even girls who have played. You have to love volleyball to want to play overseas. Like, it is not for everybody. There's a lot of upside and there's a lot of downside, and you have to be able to manage the downside as much as the upside sometimes, because you have to be willing to kind of roll with the punches. Because depending on what league you're in, what club you're playing for, coaches, mates, country, culture. Like, you could be walking into an absolute dumpster fire, or you could be walking into like a really nice situation. And I wouldn't say I've experienced dumpster fire. I've heard way worse stories, so I've been pretty fortunate. But I still have had a fair share of like okay experiences to like incredible experiences, regardless of team performance, just like how the club's organized and whatnot. So definitely culture shock is huge. You have to love volleyball, like I said, like unless you're coming out of school, on the national team, which I was not, or like, a poster child from some of the schools out west, like where you're going to Italy or Poland, right out of college, which is very rare, but it happens. You got to love volleyball, and you got to kind of find your way and try and get seen or get exposure to places where you finally get on a team where you feel like you're of equal talent or equal level to the people around you. And that may not happen first year or two, depending on your agent, depending on opportunities, depending on coaches and connections and who sees you. There's a lot of variables that go into it. It's not just always talent, in my opinion. Obviously, talent helps, but there's some outside factors that play roles too that can really help get you to different steps, as well as the talent and the work ethic. But yeah, I think the culture shock for a lot of people is why most people don't play more than 1 or 2 years. They just get homesick. And honestly, I was really close to quitting too after my third year. I took a pay cut to play in Germany, which is a better league than where I was playing previously, which was Switzerland. I took the pay cut just to get exposure. Like, I was like, I just want somebody to see me If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have gotten on the team that I was on this past 2 years. So in hindsight, I'm really thankful that I took that opportunity and kind of bet on myself, because I would have never gotten the opportunity on like a quote unquote better team or a team that's playing Champions League to get that exposure. But it's like that's, not everyone's willing to do that. Not everyone's willing to take a 50% pay cut to go play in a better
Oh.
league. Um, it just depends on your goals and what you're willing to sacrifice. And I think a lot of people, it's not necessarily as worth it unless you really love volleyball. So I'm one of those people that really love volleyball. So I've made decisions that have reflected that. And that is partially have gotten me to where I've gotten in volleyball, which is nothing crazy, but I love the game, and it's been a lot of fun traveling and meeting people and whatnot and being exposed to different cultures.
So you spoke quite frequently about your love of volleyball. How did that develop? Where did that passion come from for the sport?
I think my sister and brother both played when they were older, and I was so gung ho on football because we came from like a really successful football program in Wisconsin, where our high school, like, we won, I think, state 4 years in a row at one point from like 2018 to 2012. Or sorry, that's a crazy stretch. 2008 to 2012. While I was like in middle school, we just had a very dominant head coach, very dominant program, and like we were very good at the Division 1 level, and it was kind of like a feeder program that, like, if you were athletic, like everyone kind of just did. I ended up breaking my hand my sophomore year. I played quarterback, and I was continuing to get longer this way and not wider this way. So I was worried about my long term health with getting hurt, and also had some discussion with coaches. And I wanted to play sports at the highest level, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it as far due to my size and comfortability playing at the Division 1 level in football. I think that I probably could have played like some smaller D1 places or D2, D3, but I really wanted to compete at the highest level, and I figured I would give volleyball a rip those last 2 years, which was pretty risky, and it was not the popular thing to do. I kind of got ostracized, if that's the right word, from my football friends for just not being cool to switch from football to volleyball. And at the point, I like thought about it like it was like the life ending decision of my life. But looking back, I'm very thankful that I did that, and I didn't care as much about what people thought because it turned out pretty well. So I'm I'm okay with the switch, but at the time it was like a bigger decision. Whenever you're a teenager, you think about that stuff way more. Now it's like not a big deal, but so that's kind of what got me into volleyball. My sister played. I went to like bar leagues when I was in high school with her, and played at the Bradford Beach after Milwaukee, and kind of got hooked that way. And like I said, I had some camp coaches that I went to in the local area that said, "Hey, you should really send some film out and see what happens." And I was like, you know what, you're right. And that's kind of how it all started. So I have a couple coaches to thank for that, for sure. That pushed me to send film. Otherwise, probably would have never happened.
Has the game changed at all since when you first started playing till now? Have you noticed many changes?
For sure. I mean, sure, one, and just definitely more creative. I think the way that the game needs to be taught now, after playing in Europe and after, I mean, I play grass beach. It's like people in California have the luxury of playing year round and getting involved in a lot of different like things that the Midwest and other parts of the country don't necessarily have the resources or don't have the opportunities for kids to play like the different kinds of volleyball. But the more I've played, the more I've realized like just like the creativity of the game and the lack of errors as you get younger, and like getting that level to be higher has increased so much. It's really impressive. So I think that for me is the biggest difference, is just like the attention to detail and like the creativity of the game and different ways to score, different ways to think about options or running offense has really changed the creativity of the game. I mean, you see in even college with some of the like the staple players like Moni and some of the other guys you've seen. Just different ways of thinking about and executing the game to score is, I think, the biggest difference when you get higher level. It's like you're doing similar stuff technically, but more creative and more solution based playing is like what I've found to be like the most successful. Is like at a certain level, it's like everybody's good, right? Everybody can hit the ball super well. It's like But like what separates you like in bad situations, what separates you in medium situations, it's like that's usually what wins or loses ball games. It's not necessarily 100% like how physical, yes, it helps, but how physical you are in every instance, in my opinion.
What do you foresee the game actually moving to or advancing to even more?
I mean, I personally, and I know I'm on the same page with Joe and Gage with Out of System and how they run their camps this past summer. I'm not just saying that because I've worked with them this past summer, but I thought this all along. I've really not liked how the past decade or two, like everybody has become super specialized. I'm not a fan of like having players pick a position at 10, 11, 12, and just being like, oh, you're a middle now, or oh, you're a center, or oh, you're a libero. Like the more I've played and the more I've played with different people, like the more well-rounded um, athletes or volleyball players typically, in my opinion, are just better volleyball players. It's like they're better at every skill. It's like, and yes, there are times and places to specialize and work on specific skills for positions. But like the one thing I really like in a coaching mindset or like that I see going in the future is that disappears. Ideally, I think that the mindset of keeping players more so one dimensional um, limits the game and limits the creativity. And I've experienced that a little bit with I don't play any other position but middle professionally, playing grass. I know it's not the same, but playing grass or playing beach, it's like you set, you block, you pass, you do other things. Maybe it's not to the highest level at times when you're not training that fully, but like you get a better feel for like, all right, like this is what this player is dealing with in like different situations and like what are they looking for to find solutions or problem solve and stuff like that. And I think that the more players can get experience with that full, range of positions and playing, I think the more well-rounded they are and the better volleyball as a whole, everyone will play together because of it. So that's where I see volleyball going personally is that you're going to have more well-rounded players or ideally more well-rounded players and hopefully it goes away from the specialization. At least that's how I would like to see it. I also think that at the younger age groups, they're going to see a lot more of 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4 type training in short court, small court, mini court type activities. I think club directors really need to take a better look at how do we get more touches in a smaller confined space where things need to be more accurate, more precise, and their actions or their touches carry more weight because the space is smaller. Europe's doing a lot of this in their youth, and I think that that's a big reason as to why Europe is typically more advanced or further along in their training at a younger age, in my opinion. So I hope that's where we're going. I've heard rumors of some USA volleyball things in the works that that's possibly on the docket, but I would love to see club directors pick up on that because I think it could exponentially improve their kids' performance at the later age group. The earlier they can get those earlier touches on in those mini games, I think it's really really beneficial. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely could see how it could be detrimental to someone's skill and development if you put them at middle quite early. And, if they do want to have a professional career, once you get to that professional career and have to play more rotations or, especially professionally when the middle serve and they have to go over and play the libero spot because there's no libero to come in and serve for you. I think definitely learning all those skills, getting more touches is really going to be beneficial for the future generation as they come up. And, hopefully we can continue to build those young players so that they have skills that translate all over the court and not just specializing in one position. So you mentioned grass and beach a few times. What is your favorite format to play? Is it indoor, grass, beach?
Oof, I don't play enough grass or beach to really say I'm any good at it. I'm okay. I'm okay, but like if I mean there are people that train grass like year round. The guys that don't play overseas typically that are still in volleyball are either like beach or grass players. Um, I prefer grass because it's more like indoor. I do like uh, beach, but it's just beach is too much of a different game in my opinion from grass and indoor. It's like the difference is much greater than the difference between grass and indoor versus like grass and beach. So I would say Indoor is still my favorite. I think as I get older and I stop playing indoor, I think I still would probably take grass just because it's more similar. But yeah, I don't know. There's definitely pros and cons to both. I think it depends on what game style you're playing. Like if you're playing twos, not a fan of grass. Rather play beach. But if you're playing like threes or fours, I think grass is way more fun. So just depends on the format of like the style, I guess I would say. It would be dependent on my decision on that one.
And as far as like events, whether it's grass, beach, or indoor, what's been your favorite event that you've played so far?
Definitely Wapaka. I love Smashville, which was the first year that Wapaka Boat Ride Non-System put on this tournament down in Nashville. That event, I think, will be as big, if not bigger, than Wapaka in 10 years. I truly believe that. I think that it's Wapaka, but it's Wapaka with a nightlife city component, which I love Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin, no hate there, but like people go to Wapaka for the grass tournament. Like, the social aspect of what they do afterwards is pretty much confined to the campground or the bar or whatever is on site there. Meanwhile, Nashville obviously speaks for itself. Broadway is an unbelievable time if you've never, I don't know if you've ever been. But yeah, so I think that event will be huge. But as of right now, Wapaka has always been my bread and butter. My parents live like 15 minutes from that. I grew up going to that and playing in that. Maybe one day I'll win it, but got to earn it, and it's been a lot of fun these past couple of years. But yeah, I mean that event is just something special to many people, and and it's something that you can't necessarily replicate the feel of that, in my opinion. Every other tournament's got its own feel, but Wapaka's just got that like special once a year type. This is that Super Bowl type event. So for grass, at least in my opinion, I've never played in Pottstown or Pat. Yeah, the East Coast one. I know there's one out in Denver and a couple other somewhat bigger ones. I know there's one in Dallas, Spiketown or Spikeville. But yeah, Wapaka for me is definitely the top.
So when did you find out you were going to be setting at Wapaka this year?
Well, I've set in the past. I've played outside a couple times. I mean, I'm not a true outside. I played outside in high school, but I don't really count that because people are serving lollipops at you in high school for the most part. I used to play with just Ohio State guys. The first year I played with like Gabe Demekus, who was our outside libero, and when we won the Natty, and Nico, my roommate, is one of my best friends, also from college, and my roommate. And that year we went to the semifinals and we lost to the Bongrams when they won it that back-to-back years. So I've lost in the finals twice now, the semifinals twice, and the quarters like two or three times. So, but I've set for almost all of those with an exception of like one, I think. So I really enjoy setting. I think setting is the most fun. I'm also middle, so it's like every middle's dream to set the ball. I'm not saying I'm any good, but especially with the lax rules now with the setting, I'm able to be more effective because the double rule. And also like in grass or beach, it's like you set the ball straight up and down for the most part. I mean, it's not like indoor where you're slinging it around. So
Right.
I don't think setting outdoors necessarily that hard, which I know I'm probably gonna get some flack for, but that's just my opinion. Plus, when you've got two really dominant hitters, it's like it makes your life easier, especially when they pass nails. So I'm mainly there to block, which is kind of like the idea when we play. I know a lot of teams don't necessarily. If you watch Rebecca, there's not a lot of teams that have one person block both ways. It's more of a rare setup, but I think we do it well with the teams I've played with. So, but Joe was hurt. That's the short answer. Sorry, I totally skipped that. Joe got hurt. Um, his knee was bothering him, um, and he just decided, better safe than sorry. So, yeah, he would have been a much better option for the setting for sure. But we had to make it work, and I thought we played pretty well up until the final, where we just lost steam. I don't think we played to our full potential at all. But kudos to those guys. They deserved it. They played well, and I'm looking forward to next year and hopefully get back to that point.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to the second Saturday in July of every year. It's definitely my favorite tournament to attend. I'm like really looking forward to Smashville growing. I didn't get a chance to go this year because I was actually going to go to USAV Nationals.
Okay.
So hopefully they, move it from that weekend because you have USAV Nationals and you also have the big NAGVA tournament, which I think a lot of players are going to go to either USAV or NAGVA. So if they can move it from that weekend, I think they draw a lot more players. But hey, it might just come down to it where everyone's just going to say, hey, I'm just going to go to Smashville this year and not go play at Nationals. So
Yeah, I heard that they scheduled the same weekend of Wapaka.
for what?
I think they hadn't overlapped this upcoming year. They're looking at I don't know if this is released yet or not, so I don't know if I should be saying this, but too late now. The like Nationals they scheduled over this weekend as Wapaka, and we're like, what are you thinking? So I guess maybe it's not the same exact clientele, but I feel like there are a couple weekends you should probably avoid for massive tournaments, and that's maybe one of them. But that's
Yeah, it's definitely one of them because you might not have the same players, since it's
exactly
more of an
that's what
adult
my
tournament. But the coaching, there's a lot of coaches that play that weekend too. So, oof,
So
that's
we'll see
definitely
if they end up
frightening to
moving
hear.
that date or not. I'm super curious to see if they are like, oh crap, we should probably flip that, or if they're just gonna stick with it or not. But yeah, if you get a chance to go to Smashville, highly recommend. It was an awesome event. They do a kind of like a pre Smashville tournament down at the Pantheon, which is like this park. I think it's called the Pantheon downtown. It's like beautiful. It's got like this Coliseum like structure with a nice grass field downtown, the skyline in the background. And they had that the night before, open play. They set up a bunch of nets, and it was a really fun weekend. So definitely recommend if you haven't.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll go to Smashville one year. Maybe it'll be an every year thing.
I mean, they're already looking at growing it. I mean, they sold out the space this year, and they're already locking in a new site, new ground for the following year with more park space. So definitely going to be expanding and adding more nets, adding more teams. So the first run of it was definitely successful. Like I said, I really think it could be as big, if not bigger than Wapaka, if they are able to find the right space. But yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing it grow. Wapaka is they looks like they're about to outgrow Brayton Acres right now with the
Yeah.
way it's going. So
What was it,
if Smashville can get to that
32,000
level,
teams? Almost 33,000 teams?
100.
3,200,
Yeah.
3,200, 3,200, 3,200.
Yeah, they're continuously growing year over year. So hopefully they can either get some more land out there, or I don't want to leave because I like Brighton Acres, but yeah, they really are growing that area right now. But
Yeah. No, they've
so
created
let
some.
me let's switch up to another topic. Let's talk about VLA. I know you play for LVC. How has VLA? How does it compare really to playing overseas and playing it at the larger international leagues?
I think that's heavily dependent on, I love the VLA, and I think what they're doing is great. The VLA faces some definite challenges just because of the lack of financial backing. You've got people that are great people, and they're dedicating their time and their resources, and most of them unpaid to make this league work and function. So it's no hate to them because they're doing an incredible job, and as much as they can do with working full-time jobs and doing this on the side and trying to provide these opportunities for these ex-players, ex-pros, and people that just want to play, right? But the league lacks the financial stability which typically brings a higher level or better talent. I think what they are doing awesome is creating a foundation of having teams kind of grow themselves. So like if a team wants to you know, put more effort into it and get sponsors and get, their team to a tier one, or, competing for a championship and whatnot. That is like rewarded by, you know, performance, which I think is awesome. Like if you're a team manager, if you're a team director and you're dumping more into this and you're, subsidizing it through your club, or how different or various teams have done it that I know of. They're usually associated with a youth club, not all the time, but a lot of them are associated with a youth club. Maybe not a direct name, but still associated. Like for example, like Chicago Iceman with Mod, for example. So that's one example. But I just think it's tough because every tournament, it's like kind of a random hodgepodge of who they can get there. It's like there's very little consistency with the teams and rosters, and they have tried to clean that up with only allowing some one wild card or two wild cards per season at some of the bigger tournaments, which I think is a smart rule. But it's heavily dependent on who can show up to these championships, who can show up to the cups. You could get a very different team A versus a very different team B at one tournament, and completely different team B versus a completely different team C at another tournament. So
Right.
that's where it's like there's not a lot of, it's like, okay, if one team beats another team, it's like, okay, you could be playing two different completely lineups, one where it's like completely stacked, or one where you're missing half your guys. So that's a problem the VLA faces with guys not training, regularly, or getting bodies in from random places. So that's the hard part for me with the VLA, is that there's very little stability with that, just because people have real jobs, and most teams are not paying players. There are some teams that pay players or cover expenses. I know that, but most are not, to my knowledge. But I think what they're doing for the sport is great. I hope that it continues to grow, and I hope that, they get some sponsorships where, they're able to actually, maybe one day, probably when I have kids, maybe if it's maybe even longer than that. But I think with the women's leagues taking off, we got like 3 or 4 women's leagues. Once that gets down to like one league, hopefully that will help, grow the game on the women's side, obviously, but, give light to the men's game, and hopefully bring some good publicity. I think the best thing for the VLA is like USA Volleyball or AAU. Like, in my opinion, you have to get those games in front of those youth players' eyeballs. So like, I really love the events that, like, okay, like the VLA championship is at AAU nationals, or at USAV nationals, because then, like, you have them on a center court. You can say, hey, like, you can go play pro, you can go play, and then come back in the States and play VLA. Like, it's the same thing that the girls are doing with, the PBL, or what is it called? Not PBL, LVB, or PBL, or uh, the other league that's Athletes Unlimited. It's like, yeah, yeah, it's like the girls are these youth girls are seeing these women play at an incredible level, and they're seeing them fulfill their dreams and being able to play in the States. And, like, not saying that's going to happen anytime soon for us men players, but having guys see that same idea when they're playing, at the club level, I think is important. And I think it brings more attention to the VLA, and more eyeballs, and more viewership, and more potential sponsorship dollars when those people are more engaged. The hell, there is a men's league, like, maybe it's not to the point where we want it quite yet, and we've been trekking away slowly but surely, but it is there, and, like, it is a thing that's an option. I think that is important for the sport to continue to grow, especially with college teams occasionally dropping like flies now with, Title IX, and what's the
NIL.
NIL, thank you. Basically just like really making it quite interesting for non-revenue generating sports. So there's a lot of variables, but any publicity that volleyball, especially men's volleyball, can get or latch onto, I think is huge. So as long as the VLA is still ticking, I think it's a win for us at any level, even if it's slow, because as long as we're not going backwards, I will take it with what's going on right now in college athletics. So I can't complain. I'm happy it's still going. I'm happy to see, teams growing and being added in various cities. It's like I work for Novice, so like, as you know, so it's like I see these new teams forming, and I'm like, okay, great, this is awesome that more people are getting on board, more people are making teams, and it's cool to see, because at the end of the day, it's like I want more people to play the game, especially after college. I think it's not only good for people's mental health, but just good for the game as well. And once you're an adult, it's like most people don't lose that competitive spirit just because you're not playing pro, you're not playing college, not playing high school anymore, you're not playing club. Like, it's not like that goes away. A lot of people still have that itch, and they aren't able to itch it, So
Yeah, definitely an outlet to
yeah,
let
exactly.
loose.
So that's important for a lot of people, and I think that is something that needs to continue. And I think that volleyball has the people to do it. I just don't know if it's, they don't have the business side quite yet, which hopefully in time will come, because I think the sport deserves it. And I think that a lot of people would be drawn to it once they see the level that it can get to.
Okay. So when you do play VLA, you normally play with LVC. Is that correct?
Yes, I've only played with LVC, and I will probably only ever play with LVC.
How'd you end up on LVC?
I'm very loyal. So that's actually a really good question. So basically, I ended up with LVC because my teammate and roommate, Christy Blau, who I'm actually with right now at his place. He is from the New York, Rochester area, and the director of LVC is Chris Hosley. And back in 2017, 2018, 2019, that's when the NBA originally formed. I mean, the NBA was originally like 6 teams, and then the NBA had a falling out with 5 of the 6 teams. I don't need to go into the specifics there, but there were some disagreements about where the league was going, and they separated 5 of the teams. I think it was five. 5 of the teams went and formed the VLA, and 1 of the teams went and formed the NBA or continued the NBA. And that's where you had that kind of California and then like full country league, I guess, kind of divide. So I got linked in back in 2017, 2018 in college, and Christy was like, "Hey, like my buddy texted me about this, semi-pro pro men's league tournament in Angola, Indiana versus 10 grand. You want to come play with our roommates and get be on a team, and like the mascots are flamingos." And I was like, "That's fucking sick. I'm down. Sign me up." So it was just like a college guys weekend, and all great guys. We met up with them. We played. We ended up winning that year, I think, in 20. I don't know what year that was. 2018, 2017. Um, and that's when it kind of all started. And then I've kind of been playing in and out, on and off, depending on the summer. Some summers I've been able to do more. This summer I've literally not able to play at all because of the tour. But no, it's a great group of guys. I love the guys. They're just a solid group, and the director of that club is an incredible human being. So I would always be there if he needs something, because he's been more than incredible for me. Yeah, I'm locked into LVC for life, probably, unless I get really old and I'll start playing for a team and it doesn't matter.
Well, that was going to be my next question. What was going to take to get you over to volume? Since you said you're good with LVC.
The problem with a lot of the stuff now is is that like most teams aren't able to practice. They're not able to actually practice. Their cities that don't have a huge population is like um, or huge volleyball, men's volleyball. It's not easy to have all those guys in your area to practice. I'm sure you experienced that to a degree. I don't know how Iowa is with, how you're able to get numbers and whatnot, but like that's a huge advantage Chicago has. It's like they have so many people relatively within a similar area. It's like they're able to have a bunch of teams that can actually somewhat practice, once or twice a week. And maybe once or twice isn't a ton, but it's more than the majority of other VLA teams are practicing, in my opinion. But I could be wrong on that. I don't know what your experience is with that. But, yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of in a unique situation. Yeah, we're technically based out of Iowa, but a lot of our players are pretty much scattered everywhere. We have guys come from the Chicagoland area, Wisconsin, Iowa, Puerto Rico, Missouri, Ohio. So just whenever someone's available, we can usually just pick them up. So that's how it is at a lot of places too. So definitely one day, we're hoping that we can get a central location, but we usually try to get the best players that are available, and a lot of times they're either playing overseas or not in the country. So you just gotta wait.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the problem. It's like if they want to have the league be sustainable, or like something, actually where teams are practicing and whatnot, it's like they're going to have to get to a point where they're able to provide some sort of stipend, or like make it very similar to overseas where they're covering housing or insurance or cars or stuff like that. And I think we are a far ways away from that, but I really like the fact that there are teams, probably such as yourself, that do try and get people in from other places to make their team better for that weekend or whatnot, because they care about the performance, or the guys, or the team itself. So yeah, it's just going to take time. And I don't know if anyone necessarily has the answers. I think a lot of people that is your team filtered through a club by chance, or no? Or you
No,
standalone?
nope,
Standalone?
just standalone.
Okay, yeah. I know a lot of teams like offset cost through a youth club, so they can throw sponsors and stuff on through their youth club, and use, they use their coaches even to play sometimes that, have experience and whatnot. And that typically does well from my experience, but it's not easy even with that. I mean, it's expensive to fly people in, and especially when there's not any money at these tournaments. So that needs to change as well. I would love to see it be like some of the bigger tournaments like the cup or the championship have like 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 purse. But obviously you need eyeballs to get that sponsorship dollars, and I don't think we're quite there yet. So
Yeah, I know I know we're trying to, get to that point where, we can get the hype, get the viewers on us, get the eyeballs on us, so that we can grow. That's why we have Volume started the podcast. We're posting so much on social media, a lot more, as well as the VLA, just really trying to push the growth, build that brand, and have more opportunities for people to see the league and people to get excited. So we're definitely looking forward to growing the league and doing our part in any way we can.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think the media attention, like example, what you're doing is huge, for the sport and for the league. It's like, um, you know, you look back and, it's like 20, 30 years from now, it's like, maybe it's to the point where, there actually are being, paid players and people are coming in from Europe and playing here. That would be the dream, right? To get like
Right.
that level of a league where you can actually, not send your college players somewhere else. But yeah, it's a dream right now. Hopefully, maybe one day a reality, but it's got to start somewhere. So it's starting with people like yourself and people that are behind the VLA and working those long hours, on top of their normal jobs. So it's like I can't give those people enough credit because someone's got to do it. And a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I could do X, Y, Z so much better." It's like, well, you're not doing it. Oh, you're not the one actually putting the time and the hours on top of their normal job. So
All right.
I give a lot of kudos to those people for trying, the best they can and making it the league what it is so far because it is way more work than people think it is. So, um, that stuff doesn't happen overnight, especially when you don't have, somebody with deep pockets, handing you checks every now and then to, make a league work like some of the women's leagues.
Right. So, real quick, let's talk about what's next up for Blake. I believe you retire from overseas. So, as far as your playing career, what's next up? What are you looking to get into next?
Yeah, I'm keeping my options open. I am currently working for Novice, so I've been doing that. I'm also going to be working for Out of System here. I'll be organizing their tour for 2026. So
Nice.
I'll be contacting directors and working with club programs and whatnot across the country to get those things set up and organized. So I'm super pumped about that. I had a blast this summer with these guys, just coaching and doing what I love to do. So it's been a little hectic with not being in one spot, but in terms of like meeting people and whatnot, it's been incredible. I mean, I loved it. It was an absolute blast. So I'm super thankful to those guys for giving me the opportunity and excited to see where that company can grow. They've got a lot of good ideas that are in the works right now that are slowly starting to creep out on social media. But I think that it could be a significant, it already is, but a very significant volleyball company in the future that provides a lot of cool opportunities for adult and youth volleyball. It'll be cool. I'm looking forward to just to being a part of that as much as I possibly can and helping to grow that. Yeah, I've thought about college coaching. That's still up in the air. Had a couple opportunities at some places that I'm not going to necessarily say out loud, but it's tough with college coaching now, in my opinion, because it's just for me, it's not as much about the relationships and the development of players as much as it is about who can get who the most money. And for me, I'm not sure if I want to be a part of that. I haven't quite decided. So that's why I've kind of stepped away a little bit and done more of the, working with Novice and still being in volleyball, but on like a sales side because I like to be around volleyball people and then, out of system, still being on the coaching side, again, interact with kids, where they still love the game. And it's not just, I'm going here because they paid me 40 grand more, I mean, I can't blame them. The landscape nowadays is insane. And I try to put myself in their shoes if I was in college. And I feel like I would probably make similar decisions because it's, money you can't get again, especially if you become injured. So I can't say I blame them, but I'm just not sure I want to be a part of the coaching side because I think it's now if you're a head coach, it's like you're more of a manager than you are a people developer or a player developer. And I think there's a lot more headaches than there ever was and more pressure now because the money's involved. I mean, there's always money involved, but now it's even more businessy. So, yeah, I'm not so sure about that one yet. I think if the right opportunity presents itself, I definitely might entertain it. But it's definitely changed from originally because in college, it's all I wanted to do was be a head coach or be an assistant coach of a program on the women's side specifically. yeah, the landscape has changed, and it's just opened up a whole new can of worms. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it plays out after a couple of years and see if things like settle down or if it gets even more chaotic. For now, I'm super, super content with uh, the people I'm with and what I'm doing. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at.
Yeah, I've watched you from afar. Seen you a little bit overseas when I can watch a couple of your games online. Watched you when I seen you a few games at VLA. And I've watched you play little grass too. So it's been a pleasure to watch you, continuously develop. I'm looking forward to see, you continue on your path and your career. Real quick, you want to give a quick plug to have anyone reach out if they have any apparel needs in your contact information?
I appreciate that. That was very nice of you. Yeah, I mean, I don't consider myself a salesman. I just love volleyball. So I actually met the owners of Novice 2 summers. I worked in Albany, New York, for that club director that kind of got us connected with the VLA and the NBA that I mentioned earlier when we were talking. But yeah, I work with a bunch of high school teams, club programs, adult nationals teams that contact me for jerseys and stuff like that. But yeah, my email is Blake at Claim Your Crown. Or yeah, Blake at noviceclothingcompany.com. Either one of those will go to the same user, which is me, obviously. And yeah, we do other sports, not just volleyball, but primarily I work in volleyball and growing that space and getting them exposure because I love the owners and I love their stance on the sport and how people should be treated. So I've been happy to work with them and go full time here eventually with them to get them some exposure in the club scene. So if anybody needs help, I'm more than happy to. They can reach me on Instagram too if it's easier, or they can shoot me an email.
All right. Well, Blake, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope everything works out for you this upcoming season and beyond. And I look forward to meeting and interacting again. And I know that I actually do have to still order some items from you as well as soon as everyone gets me their sizes. I'm not gonna say any names. I should, but yeah, give me your information and stop lollygagging. Otherwise, it's gonna be indoor season here, and yeah. But
Love
yeah, Blake,
that.
thanks so much. Thanks so much again for joining us, and you have a good night.
Hey, thank you so much for having me and talk soon.
All right, thanks.
Yep, bye.
Bye bye.